Hi, everybody. Welcome to Woman Up. My name's Leah and I'm joined by Sue. Hi, Sue.
Hi, Leah. How are you? Where's your woman up sign?
It will be up in the near future. I should put a plant in the background or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of bare.
Yeah. I've just moved house. Give me a break. So, self-described trans man, gender medicine survivor, lesbian, mum. Speaking out for kids and fighting to stop childhood medical transition worldwide. Today, we're really pleased to be joined by Scott Nugent. Scott transitioned at the age of 42 and is a mother to 3 children. Before transitioning, Scott was a prominent figure in the business world, excelling as a sales executive and achieving numerous honours and accolades. Scott is the founder of Trey Voices, an organisation comprising of trans educators who stand against radical gender activism. Their aim is to inform politicians and families about the realities of gender dysphoria. As an activist, Scott is critical of healthcare protocols for so-called trans and gender diverse youth and has openly expressed regret about the surgical outcomes and complications that she's suffered. She's also been involved in anti-transition activism, particularly focused on highlighting the affirmation model and preventing life-threatening surgeries for children. Scott says that undergoing surgery did not change her fundamental identity, asserting that despite the physical alterations, Scott still considers herself a woman. Thank you so much for joining us, Scott.
Thanks, Scott.
Hey,
If
thank
you're
you. Sorry,
not...
I know it's been hard to get to connect, but thank you for being patient.
No, thank you.
Yeah.
We're patient women, aren't we?
Yeah, we are.
No, I'm not.
If you're not totally sick of talking about it, Scott, can you just tell us the story of your transition for people that might not have heard it?
Well, sure. I started to transition about 42. And it just came about. I know this sounds really wild, but there's a backstory to it. But I was watching, Jenner on TV, the reality show, and Jazz Jennings and all that kind of stuff. And I looked over at my wife and I just kind of said, God, I wonder if I was born in the wrong body. And she just jumped on that, with the idea that, yeah, you probably were. And I was married to a woman that was, didn't think she was a lesbian, so it was just me kind of a thing, and always made fun of me about stuff like, oh God, you lock the door at night, like somehow being a woman and checking the doors is, I'm a man kind of a thing. And so it was just that little sentence. And the next week I found myself in an office with a therapist, with a trans woman therapist. And I was like, I'm wondering, all this born in the wrong body stuff, it kind of matches me a little bit. And one of the first things that she said to me was, well, how long have you been dressing like a man? And I know that that's just a small little sentence, but that sentence has absolutely changed the trajectory of my life. And here's why. I was in an office with a trans woman therapist. It was after work and I was in, a female business suit. Nobody would think that I was a man if you saw me. I mean, I was more like Gillian Anderson kind of thing. My grandmother put me through finishing school twice. I knew how to do my makeup and my hair. I wasn't a butch lesbian, but I was very dominant. And so when she said that to me, it was like I felt mortified, like I had gone my whole life passing everybody on the street. And, as I walk by, they go, yeah, that's Kelly. That's a man. You didn't know it. I felt like that was my entire life. And then after about 2 weeks of being mortified, I kind of, look back on my life. And if I would have interchanged one thing, which would have been, born a man instead of a woman, with my personality, my strong personality, being a lesbian, all that kind of stuff, I realized that all the struggles that I have would have been, absolute triumphs. I mean, I wouldn't have just been born in a family that put me on a pedestal. I would have been on the fucking pedestal. I was what every man wanted in a boy. And so all that kind of stuff, was just kind of, well, God, I guess I am. And then, after that, I went to a doctor, like a gynecologist, and he said something to me. Have you ever had yourself tested for intersex, your job wounds, or this or that? And so it was like, at 42, I'm a business sales executive, not a stupid person, but I mean, that just absolutely cut me down to size to a child in just a couple of sentences. And within a year, I was almost completely medically transitioned.
Wow.
Yeah.
It just makes you think, if you can be that vulnerable at 42,
Yeah.
what the fuck, 11, 12-year-old, like,
Yeah.
how this is even a thing.
Yeah, and unfortunately, we don't have a lot of conversations, a lot of strategic or debating conversations about this, because you can't have a conversation with somebody who's agrees with medical transition, thinks it's life-saving, thinks it's for kids, thinks it's beneficial, and it's some kind of life-saving thing, and have somebody over on the other side that's against it, and come together and have a debate, because nobody's going to leave that debate going, yeah, I'm really for medically transitioning human beings and children. That person on the side, the unicorn farter and the glitter bomb, talk about trans life is human rights or whatever, I really moved me. Nobody's gonna leave that. Everybody's gonna kind of leave and go, well, yeah, that's kind of stupid. So nobody talks about it. It's all out of the media, and you can't have these conversations. And of course, we've got pharma behind it. Just in the United States, if we medically transition all the children that think that they're transgender here in the United States, it's gone from 0.06% of kids that used to think that they were transgender. The new numbers are 8.4% of population between 3 and 17. I mean, that is millions of kids. That is like $1 trillion worth of promise, almost $2 trillion worth of profit for puberty blockers within 1 year for the kids that think that they're medically transitioned. That's a lot of people that you can buy. That's a lot of politicians you can buy. That's a lot of stuff that you can buy.
Wow.
Yeah, well, that's like what you were saying, Sue, about the Rachel Levine, the emails that have come out.
Yeah. Yeah. Have you seen those, Scott?
No, I haven't. What was that? You guys caught me off guard. When was that?
Oh, it was yesterday we were looking at it.
Oh, shit. Okay, no.
Story. He tried to get them. He didn't want them released, but they released them, and he talks about how much money will be made off the back of children transitioning, through medicalization and operations. So
it's enormous. It is enormous, and that is a travesty. That is an absolute travesty. The thing that I say to people to help people open up a little bit is Lupron, which is the one that makes puberty blockers. And by the way, you guys can have socialized medicine. That's fine. You still have to buy the stuff. And trust me, when we get POs from Australia for puberty blockers, nobody goes, yeah, that's socialized medicine. Let that pass. It's free. I mean, you're paying for it. Trust me.
yeah.
That company was sued in 2003, and they were deemed a criminal enterprise for false advertising and bribery, and deemed, like I said, deemed a criminal enterprise by the U.S. government. This is the company that's telling us that puberty blockers are safe and that there's no detriment to them. But it's also the company that somehow can write a $283 million check like nothing, but can't do studies to figure out what's happening with puberty blockers in children. The truth is that the carnage that these things are causing, it's causing early onset osteoporosis. We've got 20-year-olds with hearts and lungs the size of 11 years that will never grow. There are timeline things in puberty. If you jump over those, you ain't going back. So for the rest of their life, they're going to have to, live with 11, 12-year-old livers and hearts. We have girls, for some reason, that have early onset osteoporosis that are walking like they're 90. They won't live past 30. I mean, the detriment of medically transitioning children, people say that I'm dramatic. I'm not dramatic enough. The only difference between me and everybody else walking around the earth is that I've gone through it. So I have that belief. Nobody's going to stand up to me and tell me that, oh yeah, whatever. I've fucking done it. I have kids. I studied it to save my own life. And that's why I'm so relentless, because this is the biggest medical scandal in modern history, hands down.
Sorry, go on, Sue.
Scott, can I ask, how long after you medicalized and had the operations was it that you started to think about what you had done? And how did that come about? Was it a gradual realization or?
Yeah. So here's the thing, with the whole medically transitioning children and medically transitioning human beings, there's like 7 studies that say that it's life-saving, it's beneficial. All of those studies have either been retracted with, oops, we were wrong, sorry, our bad, or not enough time or not enough participants to make that statement. We don't know what's going to happen. There's only one long-term study that has ever, held the test of time, and it came from Karolinska in Sweden, which is the leading country for the medicalization of human beings. They followed close to 300 transgender people from 1973 to 2003, and what they found was that when you start medical transition, you do get, depression gets better, anxiety gets better, you feel a little bit better. But as the time goes on, until you get about to 7 years, what happens is that suicidal ideation peaks at that time. So we're medically transitioning children who are suicidal with a process that will help them feel a little bit better within 18 months. But then 7 years, they're going to be more suicidal than when they started the process. And the reason for this is that it's a 5 to 7 year process. So there's always a next step. So, hey, I'm transgender. That's why my life has been so hard. This is going to be life-saving. Then you get all the unicorn farts and the glitter bombs and all the, doctors telling you, oh God, do you think you're intersex? Oh yeah. How long you been dressing like a dude? And so you have all these things that ail you, but you have this, light at the end of the tunnel. I don't feel better now that I found out I was transgender, but I have to get on puberty blockers. Once I get on puberty blockers, I'll feel better. And then the kids get on that. And then they go, that didn't feel any better. But once I get on testosterone, I'll feel a little bit better. Well, testosterone is a mood elevator, by the way.
Yeah.
And so we're giving it to children that are just going into puberty. They're getting huge doses of estrogen, which estrogen is a anxiety, depression kind of booster. So we've got these girls that are dealing with this. Then we're giving them testosterone. They feel a little bit better. And then that wears off. And then, when my parents stop, mispronouncing me, I'm going to feel better. When they start when I get top surgeries, when I'm going to feel better, when I get bottom surgery, and then what time frame is that? Like 5 or 7 years. And that's when the height of suicidal ideation hits. So that's peaking right now. It's one of the reasons why I'm so busy is I'm always finding mental health hospitals, sending cops out to people. We're lifting these detransers through this parade of you can be who you were, and then when the lights go down, they want to kill themselves. I mean, the whole thing is just horrid. What's happening to these kids all the way around?
Yeah, with the testosterone as well. How was it when you started taking that? Because when I'm looking at these groups of these female to male transitioners, and they're posting videos of themselves like with their needles and their testosterone, and they're filming themselves injecting them, I'm just like, this is creating a socially acceptable drug addict generation.
And I understand why people say that, but I'll tell you that lift is just for a little time and then it goes away.
Right.
So, I mean, I do agree with you with that in the beginning, but that is just like anything. It goes away and kind of that mood elevator kind of, lifts. But absolutely, for the first like 12 to 24 months, absolutely, it does. It's the whole thing is horrid what we're doing. And we don't talk about that from a puberty standpoint. We don't talk about the difference between male puberty and female puberty. Well, I've been on both, and estrogen is a hard nut to crack. I mean, if you've got a kid that is already has tendencies towards depression and anxiety, if you have a kid that is same-sex attracted, if you have a kid that has like trauma, if you have a kid that is gifted, if you have a kid that's autistic, if you have a kid that's kind of socially awkward and it's a girl and going through puberty, there's a reason why 89% of these are girls. Because puberty is a bitch for girls and we don't talk about it. Puberty is like 3 to 4 years for girls. Dudes do it all the way to 25. Testosterone is a marinating hormone. It's one of the reasons why girls can look like males is because testosterone adds things. Estrogen blocks, but it's a marinating. It's the reason why you look at an 18-year-old that might still look like a kid as a boy. And then, finally, when they're about 32, 33, you go, okay, he looks like a man now. It's because testosterone is a marinating hormone, right? And so all of these things kind of come together. and it's creating this horrible devastating devastating, like, I mean, a medical scandal, you know.
Yeah.
And then on top of it, and people always, you know, say, well, you say this, well, you must be mentally ill too. Well, hell yes. I thought I was born in the wrong body. I probably have I'm a couple of crackers short, you bet. You know, why don't we call the white wall? You got me, you know. But I remember when I was deciding to transition, you know, I went to a transgender kind of a meeting. You know, my wife at the time said that you need to go. And so I went. And I remember sitting in there, and by the time I got done, like an hour later, I had called my wife on the phone and I said, those people are fucking nuts. There's something wrong with them. There really is. And all I saw was a whole room full of people with personality disorders, narcissistic, I mean, that sociopaths. I mean, you could tell that everything was about them and they were not in reality at all. Like, there was a guy that walked in that was 6'2" with a beard. He's like, you know, I've always known that I was a woman. And I was like, looking, going, yeah, dude, you're about as butch as they get. I was thinking. And then, you know, one of the transgender people goes, oh yeah, I can tell. You are you can tell, can't you? Oh my God, yes, you are totally a woman. And he's going, I am, I know I am. And it's just like, I was like looking around going, mom fucking candid camera. Because I always knew that, you know, medical transition was in the core of me. I always knew that it was cosmetic surgery. I wanted to believe the other stuff, but I mean, I don't have a personality disorder and all that. I mean, I can pull apart that kind of stuff. And so I remember leaving that thinking to myself, these people are nuts. These people are not well at all. And so the majority of these transgender people are not well. And, you know, and then we can go a little bit further with trans women. When you start medical transition, I mean, think about it this way. You got a dude that's got balls and he's producing testosterone. Well, he wants to have an estrogen driven body. So what do you think is going to happen if the doctor gives him a tiny bit of estrogen? Nothing. You know, to medically transition and change that body to an estrogen driven body, you got to give massive doses of estrogen. And once that takes over, and once you get the surgery, you can kind of back it down. But we've got dudes that have total personality disorders, total narcissists, with a fetish that basically being seen as a woman turns them on. So if you misgender them, they get pissed off.
Young man in here.
Excuse me, it's ma'am. It is ma'am.
I can call the police if you'd like me to.
Motherfucker, take it outside. If you want to call me sir again, I will show you a fucking sir.
I apologize.
Motherfucker.
I apologize now.
Abby here, looking great and ready to go get misgendered probably like 15 times today.
Friendly reminder to all the cis out there, just because it's called preferred name and preferred pronoun, that does not make it optional. And if you have trouble accepting that, then maybe instead you can accept my size 13 steel toe on your trachea. We could start there, if you prefer.
Actually, you
No, if you see a turf, punch him in the fucking face!
Cut that out now, or you'll go home in an ambulance.
Don't come back to me. Don't look at me. You're rude. You're rude as fuck. You need to check yourself. I'm matching your energy. Get out of my house. Get out. Get out. You're a horrible plumber. You're rude. This is your energy every single time. And it's missed. Don't ever call me sir again. Get the fuck out.
Not a he, a she, a woman. Okay, I'm a real woman, Amanda. I want you to know that.
Yes,
a
darling.
real woman. Okay, I'm glad that's sinking in. I'm going to say it one more time so it really penetrates.
Yeah.
I am a real woman. Okay.
On massive doses of estrogen, like 2 or 3 times more estrogen, and then you couple all that together, and then we're giving them the power that, you know, they are being mistreated and it's all about them. Are we surprised when these guys, you know, attack Kelly J. Keene or what? Are you surprised? How could you be surprised? I go to those rallies, and if there's a transgender woman that I see starting to get upset, not all transgender women, of course, you know, a lot of them, there's some really good ones too. But if I see one that I think is a little nutty and is getting upset, I'm fucking out of there, like sprinting. I mean, they scare me, and they should scare everybody.
Well, I guess especially in the US, because we've got gun laws in Australia. But that's what sort of always worries me, is that you just have to get one of those nuts that decide, you know, they're just unpredictable.
No, it's fucking insane. But this whole movement is preying on the children who already have all the things that you've listed: personality disorders, depression, low self-esteem, and preying on their vulnerabilities. And like, if the whole born in the wrong body narrative was never out there, they wouldn't be believing that they were born in the wrong body. That's been put into society.
No.
Yeah,
like, you probably wouldn't have believed that if you didn't get told that by a therapist. But had you ever had the idea that you were born in the wrong body 10 years ago?
Yes, and I did. You know, I mean, I remember being a kid, you know, telling my uncle, you know, what do you want for Christmas, Kelly? I was like, I want to be a boy. And he's like, well, you can't. Do you want an Atari? I went, yeah, that'll do. So, you know, here's the thing. There's all different reasons why people medically transition. But the long and short of it is that most people are just wanting to fit in. It's either internalized homophobia or extremely effeminate men or masculine women. For me, you know, I was born in a family that had extremely feminine women, you know, very seductive, very beautiful, very, you know, they used their femininity, right? And they were gorgeous, and they used it well. And then the men in my family were very male, you know, athletes, professional athletes, and so here I was in the middle, and, you know, I had a really strong personality, but, you know, they dressed me up so I looked like, you know, I was supposed to look. And like, I mean, it's a joke, but seriously, my grandmother put me through finishing school twice because I failed the first time. So I know how to walk, I know how to do all that, but my personality never changed. I mean, this was who I am. In kindergarten, they started reading a book. I mean, I grabbed the book, said her inflection is wrong, kicked the teacher off, and you know, told the story. That's who I am. And so, you know, I spent my life going, girls don't do that, girls don't do that, girls don't do that, girls don't do that. And so when this came along, it was kind of like, God, yeah, this kind of fits. You know, and the sad part of it is that if people don't know that I'm transgender, life is so much easier this way. And it shouldn't be. It shouldn't be.
What, just your daily going around as appearing to be a man? It's just a lot easier.
Yep, it is.
Yeah, I can understand. I can completely believe that.
So what made you, because you're an incredible voice for kids, not just in America, but globally, when did you start to get involved, you know, by speaking out? Was it with the Matt Walsh movie that? No. I've been doing this for a long, long time. I mean, helped write one of the first bill here in the United States, and it's, you know, different countries. I've been doing this for a long time. And it started 5 years ago, a little bit over 5 years ago. There was a point at which I was really sick with transgender health. I had a 17-month recurring infection. It's horrible. Long story short, you know, I kind of knew I was sick, but there was a point at which I kind of looked in the mirror, and it was this realization that I'm dying. I mean, I had a reoccurring infection. I was on 17 rounds of antibiotic. I had like a PICC tube in my arm, still trying to work, whole thing. And but there was one day that I just went, I'm about out of here. I'm gonna die. I mean, I'm a fighter, but this has got me. And it was at that moment that I thought to myself, well, thank God, because this life has been horrible all the way around. You know, being a lesbian, you know, abused as a kid, all that kind of stuff. I'm like, I'm fucking out of here. Thank you. You know, and I had this like this whole almost 2 years of being sick that it was going to be over. And then I saw my kids.
in my mind. And it was at that moment that I went from, yeah, this is great, to, yeah, that's not going to happen, because they're not going to be okay. And so it was at that moment that I made a deal with God. I'm not a Christian, but I do believe in God. That if I could get better, if I could be here for my kids, I would out this surgery. And I thought it was this surgery. And so it was after that day that I found a surgeon, and things kind of, some things happened that kind of just really shook me into it, and got on Twitter and realized what they were doing to children, and realized the craziness of it. I've never been involved in the gay community. I think they're kind of wacko. I'm sorry. I just don't get it, just because there's nothing to celebrate because you like to have sex with the same sex. I mean, it's not, you're not hugely enlightened or anything. I mean, get a grip. Nobody needs to know about that. So I've always been outside of the gay community. And so I wasn't really into it. And so when I got on Twitter and stuff, I'm like, oh my God, they're doing this to kids. And so I had that, in the back of my mind, having 3 kids, and then being around my children. And one day I heard one of my daughter's friends online and go, God, maybe I was born in the wrong body too. And I just stopped and I went, holy shit. And, I'm like, if that got me at 42, these kids don't have a chance. They don't have a chance. So I got on Twitter and, started telling everybody to fuck off. And, I was just trying to get people's attention, got people's attention, said things that you're not supposed to say. And then I was waiting for the moment to kind of tell the story about that. And that's when One Is a Woman came on. Didn't know who Matt Walsh was, but I knew I felt it, that was the time. And, kind of said what I had to say on that, and been, it's been 5 years.
Sales executive that kind of just didn't fit in any box. When psychologists or somebody that I was in love with or whatever said that I was in the wrong body, I started to think, well, maybe I am. I'm a biological woman that medically transitioned to appear like a male through synthetic hormones and surgery. I will never be a man. I've had 7 surgeries. I've had 1 stress heart attack. I've had a helicopter life ride with a pulmonary embolism. I've had 17 rounds of antibiotics. I had 6 inches of hair on the inside of my urethra for 17 months. Nobody would help me, including the doctor that did this to me, because I lost my insurance. I get infections every 3 to 4 months. I'm probably not gonna live very long. That's a phalloplasty, that's a bottom surgery. We have 5 children's hospitals in the United States telling girls that they can be boys at $70,000 a pop in a surgery that has a 67% complication rate. That will kill me from infection, that I can't sue on. We're butchering a generation of children because nobody's willing to talk about anything. The truth is that medical transition is experimental. We have studies that said that medical transition helps mental health. They've all been retracted. The only long-term study tells us 7 to 10 years is when transgender people are the most suicidal. After surgery.
So how did he find you, or did you find him, like, for this documentary?
It's funny. It's funny because I was called about that documentary, and they really wanted me to go, and I was just not. I hadn't left my house in 3 years. I had, I'm just all the trauma of all of it. The surgery's gone wrong. I hadn't left my house for 3 years. I never really said that I was, housebound or whatever, but I kind of realized when he asked me to go up there, I'm like, God, I really don't want to go up there because I haven't really left my house to go to the store, and I'm going to go to New York, right? And so my kids found out about it, and they're like, yeah, we'll go. And so we all went. That's my first outing after 3 years, all my 3 kids to New York. So they found me, and they really wanted me, and I kept saying no. And then finally I said yes. And then they said, and I said, no, I don't really want to do it. I can give you another transgender person. And they were like, nope, we want you. And I was like, fuck. Okay, so I did it. But I didn't know who he was. They were very insistent on getting me. He had a talent scout, because Matt didn't know me from Adam when he met me. He didn't. Did I say Mark or Matt? See, Matt didn't know me from Adam before the surgery, and I think I shocked him. Now that I know what it's about, I mean, I remember his face was like this. You guys didn't see it. He was like this.
Mm.
It was a
He
very
didn't say
powerful
anything.
part of the
That's not Matt. He's like, he was just sat there, and every once in a while I'd be like, "Are you there?" Like, yeah. And then I would just say it again, be like, "What?" I think he was shocked.
Well, I find it is shocking. I've been shocked since I found out about what's going on with the kids, especially.
Yeah.
In Brisbane, we found out that there's a plastic surgeon, Valley Plastic Surgeons, who do double mastectomies on 15-year-old girls. And we know that for a fact because I've read the story from the 15-year-old girl. And I phoned them up and they confirmed to me that they would do a 13-year-old if they had the right paperwork from their gender therapist.
So I was asking about the protocol of top surgeries for trans boys, and I couldn't remember if she said the letter from the psychiatrist had to be 5 months or 3 months in advance.
A minimum of 3 months before surgery.
Right, okay then.
If you have a surgery date, that letter has to be dated within 3 months of that appointment.
Okay, that's good, that's great.
Yeah,
And sorry, carry on.
Any sooner than that, it needs to be done again.
Okay, so it would just need to be done again if anything was to crop up and it didn't go. Okay, cool. And it was it 15 and upwards, the age limit, or have I got that right?
Yeah, that's correct.
15 and upwards. I couldn't remember if she said 15 or 13.
Technically, you can go from 13.
Right.
But generally speaking, 15 is.
Okay, cool. All right, that's great. I've written that down, so I shouldn't need to call you again.
And people still don't believe me when I say it, when I tell them that this is going on. So,
well, because Australia is one of the worst countries, if not the worst country, for medically transitioning children. I mean, you've got some Supreme Court cases that are gagged, where they're taking kids away and taking them to birth and medically transitioning them. That's the truth. But unfortunately, you can't talk about it in Australia. Australia is actually one of the first countries that has actually created a disability for these kids. So these kids, when they get to be 18 years old, they have all these issues. Then they medically transition. They hit the 5 to 7 year, right? Then they're not functioning. They can't handle life. In Australia, you can tick a box, and they're going to get money for the rest of their lives because they have transgender disability. Did you guys know that?
No. Did you, Leah? Wow. No. So they're predicting that they'll never really have a fully functioning.
So, and I don't know why they're doing that, because maybe they don't want society to see the carnage that they're creating, but this is, I say this with understanding that Hitler killed a whole bunch, not at the same, killing level, but I'm talking about the ignorance, the absolute ignorance of society, how people sit at dinner parties after, hearing what Hitler did with, you just kind of sit back and go, how did that happen? This is going to be the same thing in 50 years. People are going to sit back and go, how did that happen?
Yeah. Well, I hope it will. I hope that will be true, because part of me sometimes thinks, is this just going to be our new normal forever? That kids are just going to be transitioned and everyone's just, because what is it going to take for people to listen? I mean, I've lost friends. Me and Sue have been cancelled and everything for saying that you shouldn't, that children shouldn't be put on drugs and their bodies shouldn't be changed for the way they feel. And we've actually lost people in our lives through saying that.
Yeah.
Well, there's when the carnage spills over enough. So for me, I do know that this is going to stop. All I'm trying to do is save the most amount of kids. I'm trying to push that inevitable forward, because the carnage of what's happening to these kids, it can't sustain itself. It can't. It will eventually push itself up, and the carnage will come up. There's going to be lawsuits. And it's going to come in. I mean, if you take a look at the New York Times that just ran an op-ed about regret, by the way, and I wrote I wrote an op-ed for it. It's an incredible piece. It's coming out this Saturday in another big publication, but they didn't even call me back. And they put in an op-ed. Of course, they did an op-ed about transgender kids. And in it, they talked about the decision to medically transition children is akin to whether or not you want to do a competitive swimming team in 6th grade. That it's completely and totally reversible. So you have organizations like the New York Times that is putting this stuff out there, that is not doing the other side. And so we've created this kind of polarization in our society where you're either right or left, nobody's in the middle. And if you want to be successful in the news or social media nowadays, you have to have a sub-tribe. You have to have either conservative or Republican or feminist or trans or gay or, all that kind of stuff. If you don't have one of those sub-tribes and you want to make it in news or social media, good the fucking luck to you. It's not going to happen.
Yeah.
And so you have all of these different like tickers. Like if you're a feminist, you have to believe this, you have to believe that, you have to believe this, you have to believe that. And I don't mean to, it's anybody, conservatives, whatever. Here's the ticks. And then if you look at those and go, well, I don't really agree with that one right there. And then you got to go, well, I can't say that, or they're going to kick me out of my sub-tribe. And then I'm going to have to do it on my own. And then you lose all support. You don't get donations. You don't get help, anything. And so that's part of the problem too. It's one of the reasons why I refuse to align myself with anybody. And I piss everybody off. And I hurt financially for it. I mean, I could do like everybody does. There's one person that made over $1 million in speaking events last year. I've never paid for anything, but I do it because of that promise that I made. And so I say what needs to be said, regardless of who it pisses off. I don't care. This is a soul mission for me.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, we'll probably get shit for talking to you, Scott, because you describe yourself as a trans man. And there's loads of women in this movement that think that someone like you can't have any input in what's going on with kids because you've had the operations and stuff yourself.
Well, that is lazy. That's lazy politics. It's lazy debating. It is black and white thinking. And it's one of the reasons why we're exactly where we're at, because nobody can talk about anything. And so I understand what feminists are saying, but every time I start to talk to one, they say, well, you consider yourself a transgender man. I say, you're right. I think that transgender is a verb. It's a choice that you make. And medical transition is 100%. You can't go back. I will never look like a woman again. The only way I could look like a woman is to have massive surgeries, and I'll always look like a transgender woman, like I'll never fit in. And so I keep trans man so that people know that it's permanent, number one. Number two, I keep it so that I get to the people on the other side of the eyeballs that think that it's basically about hate. And so they go, oh, that's a trans man that's against that. Why is that? So I get people a little bit. And then they say, well, you don't consider yourself a woman. Yes, I do. I'm a woman. Well, you promote transgenderism. No, I don't. I'm a trans regretter. I think it's one of the stupidest things I could have ever done. But also the reality, it does help some people walk through light a little bit lighter. Not very many. It's cosmetic surgery. It's a choice. Whether or not somebody wants to make it or not is up to them. It doesn't. And so, I mean, I just go through the whole thing, and then it ends at this, and this is the thing that really irritates me with feminists, is that the feminists and the evangelicals that lift all these detransitioners. So at 11 and 12 years old, these kids are either same-sex attracted, they're either have personality disorders, they are from bad homes, they have trauma, they're autistic, so they have one of those things. So they don't fit in. So they got trans people telling them that, you can medically transition and you'll be better. And then what happens? They get to like 5 to 7 years and they realize it doesn't help. And then instead of going through that hurt, they get online and then everybody lifts them as, oh my God, you can detransition and be who you were. So then they get on the news, rally where they're at feminist things. So you have these women that will never look like men, that they're all like overtly going, oh, she. And then they have to go to the store and get served for the rest of their life. And, maybe they want to fit in and maybe they think, you know what, I don't want to have to go for my whole life. Hey, where's the tomatoes? It's over there, sir. No, it's her. I mean, you know, so we don't have any love for anybody in the middle. There's a gray area in this, and everybody wants black and white. Everybody wants, you know, transgender and detrans. Well, the fact is that medical transition is absolutely unequivocally not reversible. So do I consider myself a transgender man because I think it's something that is good or something that I promote? No. And I've actually thought about coming up with maybe trans regretter instead of trans man. I mean, I'm willing to compromise on it a little bit, but quite frankly, some of the worst people that have attacked me have been feminists. I mean, just horrible, just absolutely horrible. Out of the whole realm of it, women have been horrid to me, feminists.
That's shocking.
We found that, Sue, haven't we? That some of the women have just been unbelievable.
Yeah.
Well, sure. When I have conversations with them, you want to really know the truth. Here's the truth. The truth is that when I talk, people listen. When I write, people listen, and they listen because of my story and because, you know, I can communicate. It's the only thing I can do in my life, and so I get people to listen. Well, who's listening, and what are they seeing? They see a man. So even though they want me to be female, the truth is that when they look at me, they see a man. They don't look at me and see, you know, a woman. So they want me to, you know, say that all that kind of stuff. But the fact is one of the other reasons why I get so much shit is because I look like a man. Well, let me just tell you, I spent 42 years as a woman, as a really dominant woman. I know what being a woman's like. I am a woman. And, you know, now my personality didn't look like a woman. Now my physical side doesn't look like a woman. I'm still a woman. I hate to break it to y'all.
Well, what you're doing is highly effective. So I don't see how anyone's got the right to criticize you in any shape or form.
You know, there's certain things that I'm not going to do. I'm not going to do what you want me to do. And me not doing what you know, they want me to do all the time, like come out and say I'm a detransitioner. I will never say that. I will never say that because I spend at least 3 or 4 days a week trying to find fucking mental health hospitals for all the kids that you guys are lifting. And then when that story goes away, they don't fit in again and they don't look like they fit in. And then they start to have, you know, problems with it and everybody shuts them out. And so, you know what, I deal with those kids. So I will never, ever, ever call myself a detransitioner, even though I stopped taking testosterone a long time ago.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. So you don't take testosterone anymore, but the effects are just.
No, and I'm so honest and upfront about this. I'm thinking about taking it again. And the only reason why is because I got a hairline fracture in my arm from playing tennis. And so I went to the doctor and I talked to another trans man in Canada. And for some reason, of course, this is all experimental, right? So when a female gets all of her parts taken out, so she can't produce estrogen, and then she takes testosterone for a period of time, it changes some kind of chemistry in their body. Why? I don't know, but it gives you brittle bones. If you stop taking testosterone and I start taking estrogen, my bones are still brittle. And so the doctor told me that we don't know why this is, but we can put you on estrogen, you have brittle bones, or you can go back on testosterone and get your bones, hard again. But then, you know, in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, oh, I'm going to piss off the feminists. Well, fuck you guys. I'm not going to have brittle bones. So I'm actually thinking about it. You know, the hairline fracture in my arm kind of went, oh, wow. That kind of hit home because I'd heard about it. I heard about a transgender guy that was on testosterone for, I think, 15 years. And he got off of it. And he started to get hairline fractures in his discs in his back. And very, very painful. And he was only off of it for 9 months. I was off of it for about 2 years. And the doctor said the same thing. We don't know. We don't know why. But women who take estrogen and then get off of it, they go through brittle bones.
When you were put on this pathway, were you told that they didn't know how the drugs were going to react to your body? Were you told about the complications and everything like that?
You know, I was a little bit, but you have to understand the place that I was at. I was at a place where basically I'd never fit in my entire life. Somebody gave me the card to fit in, and I didn't want anybody to take it away from me. And that's what these kids feel like too. I was going to fit in. And so I do remember one of the first doctor's appointments I had where they were prescribing me testosterone, he kind of said, well, you know what? We don't know. This is kind of, it doesn't happen very often. Everybody's wanting to medically transition. I'll give you this amount, but I don't know. We'll probably have to give you more or less. We don't really know. We'll just give it a shot. And, you know, that was kind of, and I was like, I don't know. I probably should be thinking about that right there. And then I found out that, you know, hey, wait a second. Why am I on so much testosterone? Well, we gotta change drives, you know. We gotta make you a testosterone driven body kind of a thing. And so when I look back on it, yeah, you know,
Were
but
they
I was,
were they following up with you? Because surely an experiment means that they follow up with every participant involved in that experiment. So this isn't
No, and
this
that's
is
the problem.
even worse than an experiment.
no, no, they don't follow up. And you know, even like Lupron doesn't follow these kids or do studies on this, and they can do it. That, you know, the evilness about this, and you know, this really gets the evangelicals going, but the evilness about this is horrible. That there is, you know, this kind of ball of evil people that know what they're doing. The Lupron executives, that they know exactly what they're doing. And I guarantee you, they know exactly how long it's going to last, how much money they're going to make, and how much money they're going to have to write checks for when this all ends. And they have come out with the idea that there's still a shit ton of money in it. And, you know, but this is surrounded by the idea that this has something to do with human rights.
So do you think the government knows as well? Like,
I think there are people that know, you know, like, I know it sounds crazy, but Biden, he's about as nutty as they come when it comes to medically transitioning children or medical transition in general. I think he's a fucking idiot.
Mr. President, this is my 221st day of publicly transitioning.
God love you.
Thank you. I am extremely privileged to live in a state that allows me access to the resources I need, and that decision is just between me and my doctors. But many states have lawmakers that feel like they can involve themselves in this very personal process. Do you think states should have a right to ban gender-affirming health care?
I don't think any state or anybody should have the right to do that. There's a lot of, you know, sometimes they try to block you from being able to access certain medicines, being able to access certain procedures, and so on. None of that should be available. I mean, you know, no state should be able to do that, in my view. So I feel very, very strongly that that you should have every single solitary right, including use of your gender identity bathrooms in public.
Thank you. Thank you. And it feels like Republicans have turned trans and non-binary people into this thing to blame society's downfall on in some ways. And this narrative is not only dangerous to our mental health, but also our physical safety. And particularly trans women of color are being murdered at an alarming rate.
More than any other group of people.
Thank you.
I don't think he's evil. I think he's an idiot. And I don't think that, I think he's being told stuff. I think the people that are telling the people that he's hearing it from, those are the evil ones. It's a couple of steps up from the leaders.
in Australia, we've got total media silence on this issue, unless it's positive for the ideology. But we get no information at all, basically. There's one.
Yeah. And people are trying, and the thing about it is I think underlining that, I think there's people that are really trying to do good with that. And yeah, I'm 51, so I was there right at the forefront of you know, gay marriage, of, you know, those kind of rights. I saw real hate. People before me saw real hate, you know, and so it took us decades to get society to understand that, hey, you know what, gay people, we're not a recruiting agency. We turned into one, but we weren't at the time. This is about being able to sit with a partner that you've been with for 40 years as they're dying in the hospital, and not arguing with the doctor that, you know, no, you're not her wife. You know, you're not married. I mean, and the tax and all that kind of stuff. That's what we were after. And so to do that, we had to do all the Lifetime movies, all the, you know, the hate that and it has with gay people. And so the people that are making decisions right now, the people that have kids, are all of those people that saw those Lifetime movies and all the gay stuff and all the horrid stuff. And so what do they conveniently do? They pile on transgenderism on top of what? Homosexuality.
Yeah.
And so in 2015, when it was gay marriage and all that kind of stuff was pretty much worldwide, you had all these gay organizations that were going out of business, filing bankruptcy. Well, they had to find a new agenda, and their agenda is trans and kids. Now, when you jump on trans and kids, you could take there's an organization here in the United States called Trevor Project that used to average about $1 million worth of donations. In the last 3 years, it went up to $70 million. With that money that they're getting, and a lot of it's from pharmaceuticals, they've hired 22,000 educators to go around to schools here in the United States and teach about gender ideology, teach about pansexual, sansexual, bisexual, this sexual, that sexual, animal sexual. I mean, you guys would be shocked to know what these kids are being taught. I mean, they have packets, which is you could be transgender if you think, if you have any sad thoughts at all. It's going to like schools around here in the United States. And then you have, places like the ACLU. Once they signed on for medically transitioning children, they went from like $100 million in donations to over $300 million and like that. And it's just like people. And so feminists want to get mad at me for saying that I'm transgender because I'm trying to save the kids that are detransitioning, that think that they can be who they were. I mean, they're just as bad as everybody else. The transgender people, raise all these people. Look, they pass like it's some kind of great thing. Look, they pass. And you go over here on the detrans. Look, they still look like a woman. Well, what happens to all the fucking, ones that don't? I mean, at some point, it's just like I want to throw my hat in the air and go, can everybody just act like adults, please?
Yeah. No, it's evil, it's insidious, and it's seeped into every facet of society in Australia. Our friend was trying to enroll her 2-year-old into a daycare, and she had to give the pronouns of her 2-year-old, gender identity of the 2-year-old. The things that they teach now from birth to 5 years in the framework, the educational framework, is very heavily involved with this. But do you think that is a concerted evil agenda to try and get it in as young as possible, or do you think it's people who are trying to be inclusive that
I think it's a mixture. I think people really do think that they're doing good. The people that are doing that, they really do. They don't understand it and they don't get it. And this is the thing that makes me angry at any sub-tribe. So the only way we're going to stop this early is if we come together in a circle of people that all have difference of opinions. And so we've got a feminist, we've got an evangelical, we've got a liberal, we've got a Democrat, we've got, an atheist, we've got
a trans man,
all the little sub-tribes, trans man, we got the gays, we got this, we got that. Okay, we're all here in this circle, okay? So you can't call us a bigot, you can't call us hateful because we're all here. So let's talk about facts. And the facts are this is nuts. And then people would listen. And so what we have is we have these activism sub-tribes that want to take credit for stopping this or want to take credit for this. And so they want to take it in their own sub-tribe. So the evangelicals want to go, look, we stopped the medicalization of children. And you're not going to stop shit without the feminists, without the gay people, without this, without that. So we got all these people that are all worried about donations, or they're all worried about their sub-tribe. Everybody wants to be famous on social media. And I'm here in the middle going, can everybody just fucking act like adults? We're butchering children. You guys want to stop shit in Australia? They took me to Canada. I shook that shit up big time. And now they're starting to scream, you want to stop Australia from doing this? Well, have me up there. But I'll tell you one thing. I'll be walking with evangelicals. I'll be walking with gay people. I'll be walking with men. I will be walking with women. I will be walking with every facet of society. And if there's one sub-tribe that wants to take this over, it won't be successful. It will be another Kelly Jane Key where nobody fucking listens to anybody. And it basically just makes the trans people look like, like they're getting hate. You have me over there on TV. I can guarantee you, I can also pull shit away from transgender people. I'm the only person that has never had a physical altercation at these rallies. because I know that the pot is boiling. I'm not there to get some kind of something on video, get me attacked on video so I get 1 million hits. No, I'm there to stop the medicalization of children, not for your sub-tribe, not for your sub-tribe, not to make you famous, not to make me famous, but to stop the medicalization of children. And to do that, you have to act like an adult. And that means you have to be in rooms with people that you don't agree with.
So,
and I do that all the time.
Do you get any pushback from the gender ideologues, whatever you saw, but they're, you know, the trans sort of extremists that are out there? Do you get any pushback from them, or is it mostly?
No, you know what? I have to say that I think the way that the media is handling me is probably the best way that you can, which is totally ignore me. I mean, I've got a video that I did with a Ohio bill, and it was a bill that the senator was a really evangelical senator, and the year prior he asked me to come on that bill, and I said no, because you only have evangelicals and detransitioners. If you have that, the only thing you're doing is getting ass pats. You know, a detransitioner walks up and you don't have another transgender person there, you don't have a gay person there, all you have is evangelicals and detrans. All people here that need to hear you is, I used to be gay, but God cured me. Nobody listens to anything. And I told him that. And so he went for the whole year and he didn't get that bill passed. So the next year round, he said, will you help me? I'm going to have detransitioners and I'm going to have transgender people. I have gay people and I have the whole rainbow. Will you help me with this bill? And so the media had thrown this guy through treated him like shit. He's an evangelical Baptist preacher, but he was actually a really nice guy. And what he thought about homosexuality and stuff, I thought it was very loving. He wasn't hateful at all on conversations that we had. And I've had conversations. He wasn't one. He was a nice guy. And he said, will you just stand back there? And so I did. And they started calling him a bigot and stuff. And I took over and slammed him for about 10 minutes.
My name's Scott Nugent. I'm a lesbian and I'm a trans man. But my most important role is that of a parent to 3 incredible children. I'm a mother, a woman who has given birth and carried life. I'm here today to put an end to the idea that medically transitioning children is about human rights. It is not. It's about money. Market research predicts that gender-affirming care will generate more than $5 billion a year in less than a decade. The truth is that medical transition is experimental, dangerous, and it doesn't cure anything. In fact, your question, there's only 7 studies that stated that medically transitioning children is beneficial, and every single one of them has either been modified with not enough time or participants, or, oops, we were sorry. Yet these are the pamphlets and the studies that are still given to parents currently. And of course, society doesn't know that because you don't cover it. Girls' spines are not fusing together properly while on puberty blockers. We have 15-year-olds walking like this for the rest of their lives, and they won't live past 30. But you say he's a bigot. I was tricked at 42, at a vulnerable place. One day I thought, God, maybe I'm born in the wrong body. I was married to a woman who just despised being a lesbian. And one comment of maybe I was born in the wrong body. Next week, I was sitting in front of a trans woman therapist who asked me, how long have you been dressing like a man? At 42, that sentence has changed the trajectory of my life. You guys don't seem to understand that I'm not going to meet my grandkids because of this crap. And you call him a bigot. You see, I was perfect just the way I was. If only I was told, and we tell girls, because it's happening to girls way more than boys, is that there is no one way for a woman to be a woman. And there's no one way for a man to be a man. Why don't we start affirming that it's okay to be who they are? No, what we're doing is we're pushing a medical process that if a child gets on it at 14 and lives to 85, that generates $1.5 million in synthetic hormone. Did you guys get that? That doesn't even cover complications. It doesn't cover surgery. And yet you call him a bigot.
And not one mainstream media has gotten it, except for one newscaster that made fun of me. And that's probably the best way to do that. You give me screen time with people, I change hearts and minds.
Yeah. Yeah. There's silence in Australia, though. It seems to be probably one of the worst countries in the world for this complete and utter silence. You know
what I have to say, and I'm sorry, I'm going to piss people off. It doesn't surprise me. It doesn't surprise me with some of the people that I've tried to work with in Australia. It doesn't surprise me. We have all these sub-tribes that are wanting to take credit for it, and it's going to keep getting worse and worse and worse. You want to stop something in Australia, you got to do something different.
Yeah.
You got to do something that's uncomfortable. You have to do something that's different, because what you guys are doing right now, it's not working.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. It's
very frustrating.
It's actually very worrying.
Yeah.
And it's worrying how the
so
LGB are getting thrown under the bus as well with it. I'm seeing.
Yeah. Absolutely. So if I drop the trans man, what happens? I become LGB. If I keep the trans man, what do? I get more eyeballs. I put up with more shit, but I get more eyeballs. And I do it for two reasons. For that, and I do it so people understand that medical transition is not reversible. It's permanent. You can't say that it is for kids. And then when it happens, lift all the ones that just fit in. It's just wrong. It's just wrong to do on any level.
I just don't understand how this myth has become believed by anyone, that you can give a child at puberty drugs to stop their puberty, and then you can just go back in time and start puberty again. Anyone with 2 brain cells would realize that that is not possible.
Well, it goes to show human beings can be convinced of just about anything.
Yeah.
Just about anything. You know, and the whole better a live daughter than a dead son. I mean, that makes me so angry, because not only is it not true, it's the opposite. So we're medically transitioning children that are suicidal, which their height of suicidal ideation is going to be after they transition. And it's happening now. I mean, there's transgender people that are killing themselves all over the place. But now they're saying, oh, well, you know what? It's because of social pressures, because there's so much hate. Let me tell you, there's no hate going on anywhere. Transgender people are like gods to people. You know, I mean, if I'm walking down, especially in Canada, Australia probably be the same thing. I could probably go up to a coffee shop and be, 20 people back and go, excuse me, I'm transgender. I feel threatened and I need to get my coffee. Everybody kind of like part sees. Like, it's working.
Excuse me, ma'am. No porn at the bar.
Oh, it's okay. I'm transgender.
Oh, I had no idea. Do whatever you want all the time.
I mean, when I'm looking at these pictures of these operations that these girls are going through, and then they end up having to piss through a catheter for the rest of their lives, they have incisions that just won't close. It's just, I just feel like when I'm reading their posts, they seem so desperate that this has happened to them.
Yeah, unfortunately, a lot of them are very, very mentally ill. And they don't fit in, and a lot of them really don't. A lot of them are same-sex attracted, so there's some hidden thing underneath it, and people get upset when I say this, but this is also strategic. It's also true, but it's also strategic. The truth is that there are some people that do medically transition and find some comfort in that, just like some people do getting boob jobs or tummy tucks. It's cosmetic surgery, and those people deserve to be treated with dignity and respect, but it's not life-saving. And neither is transgender health. But if you tell somebody that who's suffering, that has a really bad mental illness, or has gender dysphoria, or is in a really bad place, don't feel like they fit in, and you tell them that, hey, listen, if you get a boob job, it's going to save your life. Well, what happens when you get that boob job and you realize it didn't do anything? Now you've got some, maybe some issues from that. Plastic surgery is plastic, so you'll never be, completely whole or 100%. When you start cutting on the skin, it never really goes back together again. And then what happens? Well, at least with boobs, you got boobs that look halfway decent. With medical transition, it's never going to quite fit. I'm never going to have a deep enough voice because I missed that opportunity and timeline. You know, transgender women are never really going to look like females unless they have massive surgery and they get lucky. And so it's basically we're telling people that boob jobs are going to save their life, and then we're going to give them really bad boob jobs and then laugh and go, "Yep, we're sorry." And then we're going to wonder why they're going nuts.
And then often the surgeons don't want to know when there's a complication. They're like washing their hands with these poor people.
Yeah.
Well, yep, and that's another thing. I had my surgeon, Dr. Curtis Crane in California. I didn't know that he had 9 medical malpractice cases against him. And he was banned from conducting surgery in that area. Had to move to Texas where they had
Yeah,
tort
I've heard
reform
of that.
act, which
I've
is-
heard of him.
Yeah. Yeah, and so, you know, if you read through the medical malpractice things, one thing that you'll see is how he does the surgery and then bolts. He won't put you back in the hospital again. And I had that same thing where, oh no, you're right. But fuck you if I'm right. I'm going back to the hospital. And there I was, and you know, and I saw that all the way down. So this guy doesn't put people back in the hospital, and he doesn't give a shit. And you know, these are massive, massive things. So we have people that, because of that, I know one guy that went to Crane had to have leeches on his penis because of necrosis or whatever, lost it. I mean, it has major PTSD. Most people do with this. So we have people that lost their genitals. You know, they're never going to be able to, you know, they have incontinence at 20. They pee themselves at 20. You know, all of these things are horrible that's happening. But, you know, how many people have the strength? Let me ask you this question. How many people have the strength to sit in the middle of all these societal subtribes and tell them that they're all fucked and that you guys need to stop acting like, you know, kids, and we all need to work together, and then get attacked by everybody and keep doing it? They don't. It's hard to do. I wouldn't be doing this if I didn't make that promise with God. I can tell you that right now. I would not be doing this.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, we appreciate your voice in this, and thanks for coming to talk to us.
Yeah. And hopefully we'll see you in Australia soon as well.
That would be great.
Listen, anybody wants me to help, even if people said anything negative about me or I pissed anybody off, I don't care. I'll throw it all aside. This is not about me. Not about me. It's about saving kids. And I do know one thing, and it might piss people off. I can change hearts and minds.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's for sure.
In
All right,
Australia.
Scott. Thank you for coming. Thanks for coming to talk to us. We appreciate it.
Really
All right,
appreciate
bye.
it. Thank
All right,
you.
bye.
Bye.